Mohammed bin Salman's $500 million yacht will make you never look at boats the same way ever again. It doesn't help that he owns the most expensive painting ever sold, making him one of the most impulsive flexers in the world. With feats like that, you have to wonder how deep his pockets run, because MBS isn't your run-of-the-mill Saudi billionaire. When you're the de facto ruler of the richest oil-exporting country on the planet, owning a yacht is child's play. But MBS takes it to a whole new level with his infamous super yacht, the Serene. Originally made for Russian billionaire Yuri Shefler, the Serene is a 440-foot floating palace that puts several small countries to shame due to its obscene luxury. From massive helipads to indoor swimming pools, submarines, and huge cabins for 24 guests, it is a yacht like no other. So it shouldn't surprise you that Bill Gates once had to lease it for $5 million per week. While vacationing in France, Mohammed bin Salman took one look at the boat, and that was all he needed to give its Scheffler an offer he couldn't deny. Even though Scheffler only paid $330 million to make the yacht, he made over $200 million profit just because MBS had to own the craziest yacht on the sea. The smile on Vladimir Putin's face as he high-fives MBS should tell you all you need to know about his deep pockets. It's dope that MBS could afford to spend $500 million on a yacht. But do you know what else is dope? Subscribe to the channel to see more insane wealth flexes like this. Seeing how you can't take a yacht on land, Mohammed bin Salman also needed other means of transportation to get him from point A to point B. And as the Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, he couldn't just use any vehicle. He went to the manufacturers loved by the ultra-rich and left with the fleet of the finest vehicles known to man. We are talking about a gold-plated, $3 million custom-built Bugatti Chiron that goes from 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds. While the Chiron might take the crown as the gem of his fleet, you also can't forget other beasts in his garage, like his McLaren P1, Lamborghini Aventador, and a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Because of how secretive the royal family gets, you really can't know the true worth of MBS's garage. But by making an educated guess, it should be nothing less than $50 million spent on the fastest vehicles on four wheels. MBS might love fast cars that go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, but another thing he loves even more is luxury planes that can get him anywhere on the planet in the blink of an eye. In 2018, he bought a $480 million Airbus A380 that makes the US President's Air Force One look like a kid's toy. This palace in the sky has a concert hall, a Turkish bath, and custom decor crafted by the finest Italian fashion houses. But that's not even the crazy part, because MBS doesn't just own one ultra-expensive private jet. He owns a whole fleet of planes through his aviation company, Sky Prime Aviation. The company operates over 14 planes, which means Mohammed bin Salman is one of the few men in the world who can choose which plane he rides on based on his day preference. Whenever MBS isn't shuttling to business meetings in Paris or London, Sky Prime Aviation leases out its jets to the wealthiest men who want to taste that Saudi luxury. For men like MBS, more than having a fleet of jets or owning the most expensive yacht is needed, because those are things other men can get. Mohammed bin Salman knew he had to do something to set him apart from other Saudi billionaires who throw money around like it grows on trees. To accomplish this feat, MBS went after a piece of art that was so rare, it is said to be a masterpiece that rivaled the Mona Lisa. The painting is known as Salvator Mundi, and it was one of Leonardo da Vinci's lost works, making it one of the most sought-after paintings in the world. Despite interest from historians, museums, and even countries, MBS snatched the painting for a whopping $450 million. Making it the most expensive painting ever sold at a public auction. After accomplishing another massive feat, Mohammed bin Salman did the unimaginable when he hung the Salvator Mundi on his yacht. Imagine having a boat and a painting worth $1 billion. MBS was operating on a different level and wanted the whole world to know that. If you don't believe us, just listen to what a man as rich as Donald Trump has to say about MBS.
$3 billion, $533 million, $525 million. That's peanuts for you.
With power and status like that, you would expect bin Salman to live in the most outrageous home ever made. And let's just say that words can't describe his palace. After assuming the role of Prime Minister, bin Salman got access to the lavish Al Yamama Palace, which serves as the official residence of Saudi Arabia's king. Guests who have had the chance to enter the royal palace claim it felt like stepping into another world. And who could blame them? The palace is an 11,500 square foot masterpiece with Italian marble floors and intricately handcrafted ceilings. Saudi Arabia might be a desert, but the Al Yamama Palace feels like a shift to another dimension due to the mind-boggling landscaped gardens, water fountains, and pathways lined with palm trees. It would be foolish to put a price tag on the palace, making it seem unbelievable when you realize that the Al Yamama is just one of Mohammed bin Salman's luxury homes. He also owns the Urga Palace located in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And unlike the Al Yamama Palace, this one feels like it was made to show off the Saudi luxury we are used to. After all, what would you call it when a palace is filled with things like the finest furniture money can buy and gold-plated tissue dispensers? If you think that, with palaces scattered all over his home country, MBS wouldn't need homes in the Western world, you would be wrong, because this future king would love to spend his money on multi-million-dollar homes. The Saudi Arabian leader isn't satisfied with owning the most outrageous homes in his country. He also loves owning homes in Western countries to remind us that he enjoys the best of both worlds. That is the only reason a man who has 2 dedicated palaces would need a $320 million mansion in France, which sits on a mind-bending 50,000 acres. The mansion is called the Chateau Louis XIV, and to put its size into perspective, you could fit a whole football field into its 54,000 square feet of living space. If you aren't impressed by the massive size of the chateau, then you might want to look at the gigantic indoor aquarium, the underground nightclub, 2 ballrooms, the private squash court, or the wine cellar, which can hold up to 3,000 bottles. Despite being modeled after a 14th century mansion, the chateau is as modern as a home can get, and the architects wired it up to be controlled from an iPhone. This means a simple button push can control amenities like security systems, fountains, and air conditioning. When Mohammed bin Salman isn't buying the most expensive painting in the world, he sets his eyes on other tasks, like owning an English football team in the Premier League. The Premier League towers over every other soccer league in terms of money and publicity, which means football clubs can cost billions of dollars. That wasn't enough to scare MBS, who joined forces with his country's investment group to buy a club named Newcastle United for $410 million. Just by adding himself to the team, MBS made Newcastle United the wealthiest team in the league. And that's not even the biggest thing he has bought. As if owning an investment like an English football club wasn't enough, MBS joins the tiny list of filthy rich billionaires who own private islands. His island is called Shuraira, part of a $1 billion Project Red Sea initiative. Once completed, it should feature resorts with various activities like diving, surfing, water skiing, and more. Plus, you can't forget Mohammed bin Salman's private villa, where he hosts friends and associates. According to the books, the island is part of MBS's grand scheme to attract tourists to his country. But seeing the lavish getaway parties his family is known for, we wouldn't be surprised if MBS bought it solely to relax away from the paparazzi. At first glance, MBS might look like a boring old rich guy who only spends money like your average billionaire. But when you discover he is also into video games, you might not look at him the same way. When you and I think of video games, we think of getting the latest console or titles. But MBS doesn't buy consoles. he buys whole video game divisions. The future king of Saudi Arabia and his company decided owning 96% of the video game company SNK was a good idea. With his majority stake in the company, MBS is the proud owner of game titles like The King of Fighters, Metal Slug, Fatal Fury, and lots more. We wouldn't be surprised if word ever gets out there that MBS bought the company so that he could have them make a particular game for him. As outrageous as owning a video game company might sound, MBS's most expensive property remains his country's state-owned oil company, Saudi Aramco. The trillion-dollar company is by far the most valuable oil company in the world, and it's the reason why the Saudi royal family has an estimated fortune of around $1.4 trillion. As future king of Saudi Arabia, MBS is sitting on a literal gold mine that will keep him on the list of the world's wealthiest men for years to come. Where do you think Mohammed bin Salman ranks on the list of the richest men in the world? Let us know in the comments section below.